Hello everybody, my name is Aceface. Have you seen people running T5 or Tier 6 Abyss sites and you're wondering how do I get up there? Or you want to maybe progress to the next tier of Abyssal Dead Space, like you're maybe doing T3s but you want to do T4 and you're unsure what fit to use? Well, this is the video for you. Here's basically where I'm going to give an Abyssal fit tier list, where I'm going to give a fit that you could use for basically every level of Abyss so that you can know what you can work towards for the next tier of Abyssal Dead Space or the next like upgrade path, so that you can get eventually to tier 6 and get the dank ISK. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a mix of cruisers, frigates and destroyers, because I feel like there are different ship types that are optimal depending on different levels of Abyss sites. Now, I don't have any particular like specific skill plan. That's one thing I like about all these fits right here. It's because they're pretty like straightforward and easy to use, not at all particularly complicated in how you use them. The reason is because I want to find stuff that's safe. There are many different, people tell you all the time, oh, there's different fits to use for this tier, this tier, this tier, and I've myself tried out so many different fits from different tiers. This is stuff that I'm just recommending because I know that it works and it's pretty reliable, and that's the main thing here. It's not like, it maybe is a little bit more expensive than some fits, but it is a very solid like list of fits. You can have a clear progression from going all the way from tier 0 to T6. So this is a graphic I made. So basically here you start at the very left, your T0 in a 10 mil worth Corax that does T0 exotics and earns about 15 million ISK now. It can be even more actually if you are pretty good. And then you go up the chain here until you get to this Omega side. And this is basically where I recommend you should upgrade to Omega, and if you don't and you still decide to keep going, first of all, many of these fits won't work because there's some like items that are needed to be Omega to be able to use. Second of all, Omega clones generally speaking have better skills like when it comes to your damage, a little bit in the tank, mostly damage. So it's very favorable to be Omega here. If you die, don't complain to me that you died. But these ones on the left though, I've extensively tested them in alpha clones, so then I would recommend this is what you would go for if you're an alpha clone. So if we start off here, this is my day 0 or day 1 Corax fit that I recommend that you could use straight away, and it's a very good stepping stone because like all these fits right here, they've got many skills in common. So when you train skills for one ship, you'll usually get to use a lot of them in the next tier of ships. So the Corax here uses light missiles, and it is very good because we'll be using light missiles throughout the whole chain of ships here. Now this is doing in the T0s, very basic, very easy to use. I've made a video on it particularly, and you can basically use it straight away if you use the referral link in the description below. And if you want to train the skills without using any referral link or like skill points, then it'll take about like a few days, very quickly, like very minimal skills you need to use to be able to fly this. I list them in the video about this Corax. So it'll earn about 15 million ISK an hour. This is the fit right here. I've made as I said before, I've made a video explaining this in much detail, but basically this Corax fit is pretty good because it has a very high DPS that's needed to break the particular NPC in the Abyss called the Skybreaker Disparu Troop. He has very high regen and you need enough DPS to break him. So with the skills I listed in the video and the DPS you get from these modules, you've got 2 ballistic control systems and a bay loading accelerator, it gives you enough DPS to break him. So it's overall a really smooth ship for doing the T0 abysses. Very low skill as well. In the video I have 110 DPS on my character, but this account I'm using here has better skills, so he can obviously get more DPS. So when it comes to skills in general, like as I said before, I don't have any particular like skill plan for this, because when I started the Abyss, I didn't start from here, the Corax. I started like around here. This is where I started because when I started Abyss, the frigate and destroyer Abyss didn't even exist. So I started here with the Gila and just worked my way up. I just trained skills that sort of affect the ship. I just use a bit of common sense, you know, train my DPS skills, train my shield skills. We'll get to, when we come to these fits here, especially the Gamma Gears, we'll get to some particular skills that I think are important to have. Okay, so then where's your upgrade then? If you want to earn a little bit more ISK power than the Corax right here, we're going to go to the Dragoon. Dragoon is a very good ship because it reminds you a lot of the Gila as well, because it can use light missiles and drones. The Gila and the Worm over here, they use light missiles and drones. And the Dragoon fit that I've got here, it will also use light missiles and drones. So it has like a very applicable skills to what you're going to use in the future. So here you can do T1 electric, so a bit more difficult than T0s, and you're going to earn a little bit more ISK per hour, 25 million ISK per hour. And it is also a tiny bit cheaper too. This ship is something though that I would not recommend you do straight away, because you need to have a bit more skills to be able to run this in the Corax. You need to train drones, you need to train missiles, and also a few more other skills you need to train as well. So you'll notice that it will require a bit more skills, but I also made a separate video on this fit right here that will show you how to use this in the T1. It's pretty easy, very straightforward, and it's a very solid ship too, because the Dragoon has a very high tank, very strong, very robust, a lot stronger in terms of tank than the Corax. That's something that's really good about it. And this is the fit right here, that it is basically a Dragoon that focuses on using the light missiles, and the main source of its DPS is the acolytes right here, the drones, but it also uses light missiles to complement it a bit, and some autocannons here just to aid a little bit as well. They're very basic to train, hardly require any skills at all. But it is a very solid ship, works really well, and also this doesn't have a whole lot of skills, but has more skill requirements, but has more than the Corax. Just keep that in mind. That's why I don't recommend new players doing this straight away. Then, if you want to up your game a little bit from this Dragoon right here, you can always give your Dragoon an upgrade. You'll still be doing the T1 electrics, but when you train more and more skills, you'll be able to fit Tech 2 modules on this ship here. So when you do that, you'll be earning more ISK per hour, about 35 million ISK an hour. You could potentially earn more if you become really good at it. And that's what this becomes right here. You're still an alpha clone, you're still able to use all this stuff as an alpha clone. As I said before, it's only when we come to those Gilas that we have to be an omega clone. So here we're going to use then Tech 2 light missile launchers. I don't bother upgrading the autocannons because this is just a lot, like there's 2 high slots here. I just add them here just to get a bit of extra DPS. I don't think it's worth the skill points to get Tech 2 autocannons here. You could do that, but I don't recommend it. So you've got Tech 2 light missile launchers here and Tech 2 drones. Now just one thing to keep in mind when you're using this fit, don't use the Tech 2 drones, the Acolyte 2s, when you encounter waves with extremely high DPS to drones, like for example the Tessera waves, the Rogue Drone Battlecruiser waves. They can eat up your drones alive, and you'll probably find out this yourself by losing a few drones. Notice that, wait, my drones disappeared, but it's alright. Yeah, they're not too crazily expensive, these drones, but just I'd recommend if you're using the drones against the Rogue Drone Battlecruisers, use the Acolyte ones. It's going to be a lot better. And the difference between this fit, but apart from the Tech 2 weapons and the Tech 2 drones, is that when you come to this point, you're going to have a bit more skills. You would have probably trained a few armor tanking skills. Then you'll be able to just replace one of these damage controls right here and put another drone damage amplifier in, and you'll also have a bit more rigs here to be able to assist your armor repair rate a lot. So you'll still be pretty tanky, not as tanky as the previous ship, but still be pretty tanky, and you'll most will have more DPS. Something you can think about in the Abyss is that if you have more DPS, it also sort of works as a tank as well, because if you kill stuff quicker, they'll have less opportunity to kill you. So this is an upgrade then. This costs about 16 million, a little bit more expensive than the previous one, but still not like a massive difference, and you also add a lot more ISK per hour. So when you become very comfortable in this T1 electrics right here, the reason we're running T1 electric isn't Dragoon is because it's very nice that the electrical filaments, they give a bonus to your capacitor recharge rate. So now that we want to go step up our game even further, we want to go in the worm. Now when you're upgrading ships right here, I would even recommend doing this from the beginning, but especially here when you're going to a little bit more expensive ships like a 90 mil ISK ship right here, to keep the previous ship you're using. Don't sell the previous ship to try to get this quicker. It's really nice because if you were to die in the Abyss, you'll always have something to fall back on, and it's like the Abyss is a pretty difficult PvE activity compared to other PvE activities in that you can't warp out. It's not like anomalies where you can just warp out if stuff goes haywire. So there's a lot higher likelihood to die in them than any other kind of PvE activity in EVE Online. So it will be very nice that in the event that you do die or you just make some mistake or something like that, then you will at least have something to go back on, so you won't be completely have to like start again really, or have to buy the basic Dragoon again. That'll be really annoying. You'll maybe have to go even back to the Corax or something like that. So keep the previous ship. It's always nice to have that. So the next one is a worm. It's doing T1 exotics, earns about 60 million ISK an hour, and requires pretty good alpha skills. It's still alpha clone. We're still in alpha clones, but I'd recommend having good alpha clone skills here, like almost maxing out your alpha clone skills. So it's a bit more expensive right here, quite a bit more expensive, 90 mil ISK. but it is also earning a lot more ISK an hour, and it is a beast of a ship. The Worm is really like a DPS machine. It does about the same DPS as the Dragoon, a little bit more, but one thing to keep in mind is it's a frigate, so destroyers almost always have more DPS than frigates, but we're as a frigate doing as much DPS as a destroyer, so it will have very good DPS. This fit right here, this is the fit. I've made a separate video on this as well. You can see how to use it. It's super easy, but it requires a bit more skills. You used to. That's why I told you before to upgrade to the light missile launcher 2s, because they will be very useful and you'll be keep using them throughout. So it's definitely worth investing the skill points here. Also, you'll be using Tech 2 drones. Really good to have these because you get extra DPS as well. And basically, you can think of it like this. This frigate is focusing on DPS, basically only DPS. You see here, Tech 2 drone damage amplifier, and a bayloading accelerator. Really, we're doing everything we can to get as much DPS out of this ship as possible. The thing is, it doesn't have extremely good tank, like not as good tank as the Dragoon, but on the other hand, it does have a very good ability to kill stuff quickly, and as I said before, you kill stuff quickly, they'll have less opportunity to kill you. So this works really good. I've done tons of sight in this and it works really well, and if you want to know how to fly it properly, there's a video on particularly how to use this fit, and of course as an alpha clone as well. The one module that costs a bit of money is this Dread Garista small shield booster right here. It costs 9 million ISK, but still, it's not like it's not going to take you a whole long time to get this, and you will earn a lot more ISK than the Dragoon. Now, the reason why you will earn a lot more ISK than Dragoon is not because it does the sights a whole lot faster. It does them a bit faster than the Dragoon, but the reason it is a lot more profitable is because the frigate sights, they give a lot more ISK than the destroyer sights. The way it works is that you could think of it like this. A cruiser sight, when we're in like a cruiser like a Gila, it gives just an X amount of ISK, and then destroyer sights give twice the amount of ISK as a cruiser sight of equivalent level, and then a frigate sight of equivalent level will give 3 times the amount of ISK. That's why you need 3 filaments to use a frigate sight, you need 2 filaments to use a destroyer sight, and only 1 to use a cruiser sight. Okay, so this Worm right here is a really solid ship, and you can do a whole lot with this stuff. And I mean, for the price, like 90 million ISK an hour, you're earning this back in just over an hour. So I mean, I can imagine a lot of people would be satisfied with earning about 60 million ISK an hour. I mean, you could do a lot with that. You can. I remember when I started out, I was like thinking, 60 million ISK an hour. Wow, that's so much. But if that's still not enough, you can always upgrade. Upgrade to a cruiser. We're doing this in a Gila then. A Gila. This is very expensive compared to the previous fit, so it's the biggest jump here so far. You'll go from 90 mil to 400 mil. We're going to be doing T3 gammas, and I've also made a video on this particular fit as well. Easily can be done as an alpha clone, extremely easy. I demonstrate it as an alpha clone, super easy. You can earn 80 million ISK an hour by doing this, and you would do particularly the T3 gammas, because the gammas give bonus to our shield capacity, and that's what this ship uses here. And it's really straightforward, very straightforward to use. In the video, I basically, all you do is just approach the loot and kill stuff. The only one wave you need to think about is that in the Marshal wave, there's a Marshal wave where it's got something called Marshal Disparrow Troop, or Drain a Marshal Disparrow Troop, something like that. They can kill you, but you can easily wreck them by just pulling range at 70 plus kilometers and kill them, because they can't hit you outside 70 kilometers. So just one wave really you have to think about with this and all the other Gilas really is that you will have to watch out for the Marshal wave, but just keep it ranged and you'll be good. So we're using this Gila here to earn maybe 80 million ISK an hour, but you can earn potentially even more as well, because there's a lot higher likelihood, I've noticed, to get these like really good loot drops here in the T3s than these previous ones. Like you can get lucky loot drops a lot more frequently, I've noticed, here than before, so it potentially could be even more if you're really good at it. Just something to keep in mind as well is that when you're doing these sites, like I say exotic electric gamma, always do this type of filament. The fit is made particularly for this kind of filament. In terms of the Worm, the exotic is because it reduces kinetic resistance, so we've got like kinetic drones, kinetic missiles, make stuff go faster. Gamma sight is because we will get a lot of tank from this. If you do another type of sight, like a firestorm, an electric sight, we're going to have less tank. You could maybe die. I recommend using the T3 gammas because that's what I tested with and that's what works really smoothly. The electrical sight is very important because they boost your capacitor. If you don't have the electrical sight, you'll run out of capacitor fast in these fits right here. in the exotic, you'll do it slower if you do a different type of sight, etc, etc. You get the gist of it. There are two skills that you really need to max out when you're doing this T3 and T4 Gamma Gila, is the shield management and shield operation skill. They give you good shields and allow you to tank a lot better than if you didn't have them maxed out. So if you're an alpha clone trained to level 4, if you are a mega clone here, I would recommend having it to 5, but you can also get by also having it to level 4. The shield operation and shield management, those are two skills that you definitely should train to high levels when using these two fits right here. So this fit right here, this is the kind of pinnacle I'd recommend for alpha clones. If we go here, this is the fit right here. Gila Alpha Gamma Gila, this one right here. You can see me wreck these up in the video about this, but you just go around, use the Inferno Furies with the Republic Fleet Valkyries, go around, dunk NPCs, earn Dankisk. It's pretty unfortunate because the prices keep going up. The Gilas especially have been going up in price recently, so depending on like when you watch this video, it could be a different price as well, but since those industry changes, Gilas have gone up a lot in price. So that's why I think the Worm is still a very good solid platform to stay on for a while, because you're earning still pretty good ISK, and it's a lot cheaper than the Gila. But definitely the Gila is what you want to upgrade to if you want to get to the next level, and especially when you want to get to the T6s, the Gila is a very good candidate for doing those extremely high tiers. And as I said before, keep your ship that you used before. So if you upgrade to a Gila, keep your Worm, don't sell your Worm. In case you somehow were to die in the Gila, I do not think you should die if you don't make any basic mistakes, but you know, it'll always be nice to have something to fall back on. So here is what I would say the limits of the alpha clones are. After this, it's time for Omega time, and it has to do a lot with the DPS, because a lot of drone skills you can train are based on having a Omega status. A lot of DPS can be unlocked by going Omega. You see here the Agru right here, the character here, he's got alpha clone skills trained, and he has like 470 DPS, but we'll get 600 plus DPS if we go upgrade to Omega and train Omega clone skills. So really, when it comes to training skills, just use your common sense. Like train shield skills, train drone skills that increase your damage, increase your drone control range, that kind of stuff. Especially when you come to the T4 Gammas, it's good to have a decent drone control range. But when it comes to this T4 Gamma fit then, how does this work? Well, you're earning a lot more ISK. T4 is a really good ISK. 110 million ISK now. You could potentially get a lot more if you're lucky drop, as I said before. Sometimes you can get these really good filaments that are worth so much. It's just a bit more expensive than the previous Gila, not a whole lot of a difference. The big price here really comes from the Gila hull. That's why it's very expensive. So we'll go to this then upgrade. So you could basically think of this is like an upgrade to the previous fit right here. So instead of going with these Tech 2 large shield extenders, we'll then upgrade to some Caldari Navy ones. And these are more expensive, but they give you more shields. And also we're going to get a Caldari Navy shield power relay that also gives us more shield recharge per second. I've got a Tech 2 drone link augmenter here. One thing I will say though is that you can use a Tech 1 one, but I prefer to use a Tech 2 one because it gives me more drone control range. But you can always use a Tech 1 one if you want. And as I said before, this is for Omega clones, not Alpha clones, and my character here can't use it because he's an Alpha clone or he's got only Alpha clone trained skills right here. You can also, if you want, switch out this 10MN afterburner for a Tech 1 variant and go ahead and use that instead. But I like the Tech 2 one because it gives me a good speed increase. And a big thing here that requires a lot of skills is the Tech 2 medium drones, the Tech 2 Valkyries. Give a big DPS buff because they do a lot more DPS than the Republic Fleet Valkyries. You can do this as an Alpha clone, and I'll link a fit here to this, but I wouldn't recommend this because it's not as good. And since your DPS is quite lacking as an Alpha clone, to some extent it could almost be more worth. It's still a bit more ISK, but it could almost be more worth it just to do the T3s, and a lot safer as well, because the T3s you'll do so much faster than this fit right here. So that's why I would still recommend stick to T3s and Alpha clone. But you could always be a bit brave and use this like it's a Alpha clone variant of this Omega one over here, where you use the faction drones, the Republic Fleet drones, and you use the Tech 1 drone link augmenter. But still, I think this one is a lot more better, especially mainly because of the Tech 2 drones, because they give you a big DPS increase. So you're earning on average 110 million ISK now from doing this T4 one right here, potentially even more with the good drops. But what if you want to go a step higher? Well, we're going to get to serious ISK right here. 250 million ISK an hour doing the T5 electrics. in a Gila. Now we're going to be using a shield boosting ship. The reason is because a shield boost ship gets a lot higher shield recharge per second than a passive fit, like these gamma fits over here. Like you're using passive fits with shield extenders, so we get a passive shield recharge. But when it comes to the T5 electric Gila that I've got here, we will be getting really good shield boosting per second. Really good. It has to do that when you got a shield booster, it gives you a very good shield boost per second, but not as big buffer. But if you can power it, then it's a lot better than a passive shield recharge. The thing is, it's a lot simpler to use a passive fit. Like, you don't have to think too much about it, and it seems also a lot easier, but it's a lot stronger to actually use a good shield boost fit than a passive fit. So that's why we're going with these here, because you'll need some good tank to do the T5 electrics here. Now, I've done tons of videos showcasing this fit in action. It is really powerful. Wrecks the T5s. I've farmed. Oh, this is the abyssal fit that I've used to farm the most amount of sites in. I farmed over 1,000 sites in this T5 electric Gila right here. So it is by far the most tried and tested abyss fit I've ever used in the abyss. So this is what I would say is a really good way to just have a chill, relaxing experience to do the T5s and get some good ISK. 250 million ISK now, but you are shedding out some big cash on this 3 bill ISK, and a lot of it comes from these bling modules using some B-type, C-type medium, B-type, C-type multi-spectrum shield hardeners here, and this A-type shield booster, and some drone link or drone damage amplifiers that cost a lot, but also these high-grade crystals. Now, I am not using the Omega implant for this. You can use it, but there is a high-grade crystal Omega, and it will give you a massive shield boost increase that is even more than this. But the thing is, you don't need it. You don't need the high-grade crystal Omega to be able to run this in T5s. I never ran it in the when I was doing the T5s, and you can see here it is a pretty pricey implant as well. So really, it's only if you just want to have that extra level of safety. But me personally, I think it's completely unnecessary, and in fact, it's just putting more ISK on the line, which is unnecessary, I think. So then, we're earning 250 million ISK an hour with this T5 fit right here. We're going to be doing the full clear style of abyss sites here. It's not going to be just a bio-abactive cache. We're going to go around with an MWD, cruising around, picking up all these sub nodes, these extraction nodes. I show exactly how to do this in the multiple videos I've made on the T5 electric Gila fit that I've made. So it is a very solid fit, gets really good DPS. If we see here, Inferno Fury, we get 770 DPS. This heavy missile is made to pop those caches all over the place. That's why we've got a heavy missile right here. Okay, so we're on the T5 now, and to be honest, this is something that many people would consider to be like really good ISK, and I did for a long time as well. The chaotic electrical filaments, they're pretty expensive. There you can see here, very big prices of them. They're going up and down all the time. The only thing is that they're very easy to run. They're very easy to run because they give a capacitor boost, and we'll have so good capacitor. That's what allows us to get this good shield boost rate. So just keep that in mind. I know it's annoying that the filaments cost a lot, but you get a really easy time in the abyss. One thing to keep in mind is, especially when you're going past T3 to T4, T5, T6, do not run these in Jita. Completely, I do not recommend doing them in Jita, because people like to gank people running these high tier sites like T4 plus, especially T5 and T6. You'll get ganked almost straight away. People hide outside the abyssal trace, and then they just kill you straight away. And I thought initially that, oh, my ship is so powerful, it's never going to get ganked, or they're never going to be able to gank it. Well, people do all the time. What happens is that people have these tornadoes that just alpha your ships. They'll kill you so quickly. And I myself have been killed, so it's not like a thing that doesn't happen. I have been killed multiple times. You can see here the one and only Kanye West killed me. So this is why you don't run it in Jita, because you will inevitably, sooner or later, get ganked. These guys just popped me instantly. So just keep that in mind. You can get killed pretty easily in these, and if you're running them in Jita or a very high populated system, because there are these gank fleets that go around and kill people because they want to take your loot, they want to take your expensive ships, because you have very expensive modules here that can drop, and they'll earn a lot of ISK farming you. Okay, so say we want to step up our game even more than the T5 Gila. 250 million ISK an hour wasn't enough for you, or you just want to have a little bit more of a challenging experience. Well, you will then go on to the exotic Gila right here, and I've made tons of videos on this as well. I farmed lots of these as well, over 100 sites of this as well. T6 exotic, it's really good for the T6 exotics, because the thing is, the Gila in general, the exotics you could say are sort of like the optimal types of filaments if you want to do them fast. Because the thing is, the Gila has a bonus to missiles of thermal and kinetic. You would then optimally do either thermal damage or kinetic damage. If you do the firestorm filaments, they're probably difficult because the NPCs in the Abyss, they do a lot of thermal damage, so you will have a hard time because they will do a lot of damage to you. So if you, and there's hardly any NPCs in the Abyss to do kinetic damage. So first of all, because of the weather effect that reduces a certain resistance type, it'll be quite favorable both for your tank in the Abyss, but also for your damage in the exotic filaments, because they reduce kinetic resistance. While in the firestorm filament, it'll reduce your thermal resistance, which is bad for you because you'll take a ton of DPS, because a lot of deadly NPCs like Triglavians, Marshals, they do thermal damage. Also, they boast enemy NPCs armor, like buffer pool, so generally speaking, the sites will still take longer even though you are doing thermal damage. That's why for time, T6 exotics are basically the fastest you can use. That's why you can see here we've got a stable capacitor because we're doing exotics. In the electric ones right here, you can see we've got not a stable capacitor because in the Abyss we will be stable, while here we don't get a capacitor boost in the exotics. That's why we need to be cap stable even when we're not in the Abyss. So that's why we're using 2 cap batteries. These give very, very good boost to our like resistance of neutralizer. So if someone's neuting us, it'll be less effective than if we were to just have 1 cap battery. You can see here, if we show here on attributes, we get a capacitor warfare resistance bonus. So that's something really good about using 2 cap batteries. You're very resistant to newts. And this just has an insane amount of DPS. You need a very good DPS in the T6s because that is something that can cause you to die. You can run out of time. In T5s, you rarely have this problem, or basically never if you've got good skills and a good fit like that T5 electric one. I've never had an issue with time. But when it comes to the T6s, I have had some close calls when I sort of get lazy. So you have to be on point here. You have to pay attention, but it has a very good DPS, as you can see here, because we're using first of all, the kinetic drones. They do more damage than the EM drones in this in these infiltrators right here. They just do naturally a bit less DPS than the kinetic drones, the Vespers. But they also have the kinetic missiles, which we use here, and they're good because we get a bonus to the kinetic missiles, and they also have the NPCs in the Abyss. They reduce their kinetic resistance, so we're going to do more damage because we're using good missile types, but also because the NPCs, they have reduced of the kinetic resistance as well. Now, another thing as well is that I'm using augmented drones. These do more DPS. Usually, you'll be using the Tech 2 ones right here. There are 2 waves though where it's always favorable to use the augmented drones, and that is in the Marshal wave, like the Marshal Enforcers, not the Skybreakers, not the Stormringers, not the Thunderchild, not the Edencom guys, but the Concord guys. Those guys, it's more favorable to use the augmenteds on. And also the Ephialtes sleeper cruisers, not the Watchmen, not the Lucid guys, just the Ephialtes. It has to do with the way the resistances work, because the augmented drones, they do more damage, but they also do thermal damage. So in the weather effect of the Abyss, we're going to reduce the certain resistance type. In the case of the exotics, we're going to reduce the kinetic one. So that's why it's favorable to do a lot of kinetic damage, which the Vespers 2s do only. You can see here only kinetic damage, while we're doing a little bit of thermal damage with the augmented. So we do more DPS, but we do a bit of a different damage type. So that's why, because the Ephialtes waves and the Concord waves, they have very low resistances, the weather effect doesn't play as big of a role, and that's why your raw DPS is more important in those waves. So just keep in mind, when you're using this fit, use the augmenteds in the Ephialtes waves and the Concord waves. Otherwise, you use Tech 2 as your default. So this is a very expensive. You can see here 6 billion. We're basically doubling our investment right here, and we are also getting almost a doubling of our ISK per hour. I think it's totally worth it because getting this much ISK is just so nice. You can it feels, but I'm gonna double my investment cost, but you also are almost doubling your ISK per hour, and I think that's really good. It just feels like a worthy investment. Like you earn more ISK per hour by investing a bit more. And at this point you're anyway investing a lot. May as well go the full way, go to 6 bill and add this much ISK anyway. That's why, at least how I reasoned with myself when doing the T6 exotics. The big increase in cost is two things. One is that use 2 Python A-type multispectrum shield hardeners. They cost a big penny. You can see here, 700 million ISK each. Now also, because we're using that high grade crystal Omega implant we're using here. We're using the high grade crystal implant that I was talking about before. Now this gives a really good shield boosting bonus, and you will actually need it here, but it is totally worth it because you need to have somewhat decent tank in the T6s. I mean, it is quite important. And on top of that, we've not got that good capacitor bonus like we had in the electrical side, so we're going to have to use more of our slots for capacitor modules. You can see here. So we are limited on tank, so that's why we need to use all we can got, and we use all we can got by blinging the crap out of our ship. So it is a pretty solid ship. I've never had issues with it. Only issue I had once when I was like charging into a marshal wave, but that is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pull range from the marshals and you'll be completely fine. Also, wrecking shots can be, like from Charybdis Tyrannos, can do a lot of damage as well, but just overheat a bit and it's no problem at all. At this point, you will anyway have a good idea of how to use your stuff in the Abyss. You'll have a lot of experience hopefully by then. Don't just, even if like say you're a veteran player who's trained into all this stuff and got the ISK to spend, I wouldn't recommend you jumping directly into the 6 billion ISK Gila right here. I'd recommend you go something like the T4 or T5 variant, or if you want to spend ISK on this really expensive ship, do maybe start with that. If you're new to Abyss, this will start with like T4s maybe, because you'll absolutely have no issues there and you'll get an idea for the spawns there. And you can also watch a lot of my videos that I do on this particular T6 fit right here. I completely slap them all without any issue whatsoever. Like it's just steamroll. I have a lot of knowledge of the spawns, so I have a good idea of what to do, but it's not like a super difficult stuff to do. You just have to have a general knowledge of the spawns, I would say. It's not like I'm just like an average guy. I'm not some kind of like super high micro AP, 1000 APM kind of player or anything like that. I'm just a pretty average player, but I know the spawns. So that's really the most kind of learning you'll do from Abyssal Dead Space. Learn the like weaknesses and learn the dangers of different spawns. That is something you really get a good idea of by doing the lower tier filaments. So this is really what I'd call the pinnacle of Abyssal Dead Space, earning over 400 million ISK an hour. I would say on average 430 million ISK an hour. But something that's really special about doing the T6s is that you can potentially get these capital mutaplasmids. You can get these mutaplasmids that are for capital ship modules. They're like modification modules, and they can be worth over billions of ISK. They really only drop in the T6. I've never heard of them dropping in the T5s. If they do, extremely rare, but basically you only get them from T6s, the capital mutaplasmids. I've gotten so far in over 100 T6s, I've got one capital mutaplasmid, and it was a mutaplasmid for a siege module, the stuff that dreadnoughts use, and I sold it for, I think it was 1.9 billion, I believe. So just from one site, I got 1.9 billion. So that was a really nice little surprise right there, that I got so much ISK just from that one site. So this is really like what I would say would be a good way to progress to higher tier abyssal sites. We're skipping T2. I don't find anything really good for T2 right here. You can use like the worm, put enough bling and tank on it and do T2s, but in my opinion, it's still pretty difficult to do the T2s in this, and you're going to do them a lot slower than the T1s. So in actuality, you won't earn a whole lot much more ISK per hour. You will be putting more ISK on the line, and it will be a lot more difficult experience in general. So that's why I think it's a more optimal path to just stick to T1s until you go up to cruiser level filaments, because I think it'll be like we'll be using a pretty cheap ship, and also just in general we won't get a massive increase in the amount of ISK per hour. Now, the reason why we're not jumping into frigates straight away is because you don't need a whole lot of skills with these destroyers right here to be able to like get into the abyss. You'll need a bit more skills to get into the abyss with frigates right here. So that's why I recommend sticking to destroyers at first. Now you can see there's a big trend here that we all are using light missile launchers. Light missile launchers in every kind of way possible. You see this light missile launcher, rapid light missile launcher. This is like a heavy missile launcher, but we're using missiles. We're using missiles and drones all the time. Now that's something that I think that is very good about this like whole lineup of ships right here, that we're using a lot of skills. So it's not like we're going to waste a lot of skills. I mean, there's some things like, okay, training Caldari Destroyer maybe, and even then you only need Caldari Destroyer level 3, so it's not a particularly high level. And same here, Dragoon, the Armada Destroyer, you're not using that, but still it's just like a destroyer skill, not a whole lot. But we are predominantly using missiles, and we're also using a ton of drones when we get to the higher tier ones. Like in the Gilas especially rely almost exclusively on drones. So hope this helps for you guys to earn your Dankisk. Hope you have some fun in the Abyss. Hope you don't die too many times. And if you got any questions, leave a comment in the description below. I link all the fits in the description below. And if you go on my channel, you'll see videos how to fly all these fits really easily and earn nice ISK. And I also use like the appropriate character. So when I say it's like for alpha clones, I use an alpha clone. When it's a fit for omega clones, I use an omega clone. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you learned something new or if you enjoyed it in some way or another, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.